So welcome to another edition of Yorkshire Kris Weekly. It's getting to the end of the season now and it's time I start collecting seeds. As we started with the canners in the previous episode, this week they'll be collecting a lot of the annual plants like this Cleome. And once I've collected all the seeds, I'll be clearing away all these bedding plants and we'll be left with the more structural elements of the garden. And we'll also be lifting some of the most tender plants, such as some of the Colocasias. So that is this week's episode coming up. So here's my beautiful Cleome flowers that have done excellently in the garden this year. Flowered for months. These beautiful violet purple flowers. And all I'm going to do now is collect the seeds for next year. So as you can see, flowers at the top and further down we've got all these seed pods. And the lowest seed pods are the ones to go for to begin with. And if we just pull back the pods, we get loads and loads of seeds. And I'll just collect these, put these in an envelope and store them until next spring when I'll sow them again.
And how many seeds you can actually get out of just a few of these seed pods. There's literally hundreds and hundreds of seeds in just a few seed pods. I'm not going to collect thousands, but I will go through several seed pods and collect these and sow some of these next year and give away a few to friends and family as well. Another plant I want to collect the seeds from is the Spanish flag, Ipomea lobata, and these seeds need to be really dry before you collect them, and they're got this sort of brown colour, straw brown colour, and in each individual capsule you'll find just a few seeds. In fact, you'll find hopefully 4 in each capsule. These are dark black seeds, pretty hard, and I'll collect as many of these as possible for sowing next year.
Now Amaranthus again has done fantastically well this year. As you know, it self-seeds every year. I didn't sow any of the plants in the garden. It's still worth collecting a few seeds, and it couldn't be easier. Basically, look at the flower head like this. Get your envelope that you're going to store the seeds in, and just shake that over. You can probably hear that, the sound of the seeds dropping. Flower still looks good. And if you look in the envelope, we've got hundreds of seeds. So I'll carry on collecting more. Now I've just emptied the amaranthus seeds onto this tray because, as well as the little black seeds, I've got just as much of the pink old flowers. So I need to separate the pink old flowers from the actual seeds, and this is how I do it. And as you can see, just by blowing over, the pink blows to one side as it's a lot lighter, and all the seeds are in the middle that I'll put back into the envelope. There we have thousands and thousands of amaranthus seeds.
Now that I've collected all the seeds, I put them into individual envelopes into a airtight container, and then I put this in the fridge just to keep it cool over winter before I sow next spring. Now is the time to start digging up some of the more tender Colocasias, and here I have the Colocasia fontensii, which some people find quite hardy, but I'm going to lift it anyway. Comes out easy if you dig around it, not a massive root ball on it. And the idea with these is to put them in as small a pot as possible. I'm just using sort of my mixture of horticultural sand, very gritty sand, and potting compost, which is actually John Inn's #1 in this case. It's basically what I have to hand. Perlite is ideal to use as well. It's really good for aeration and drainage. And just filling that around the roots. It's one of my favourite Colocasias, this, and you can grow it really big if you give it lots of feed and plenty of water. Mine's quite a small plant this year, but hopefully next year it'll get a lot bigger. Just firm down the compost around the plants, and it's time to put it somewhere warm, which in my case is in my heated greenhouse, which is kept above 10 degrees, and in the propagator it's more like 15-20 degrees. Just give it a good water to settle in the roots, and there we have the plant ready for winter. Now here's another type of Colocasia that definitely needs digging up and bringing into a heated area over winter. It's one of the Colocasias of the Hawaiian series, so it's very tender. Again, I'm just digging around this, severing all the roots, and then I'll deal with this by potting it up and putting it in the greenhouse.
So here we have a clump of this Hawaiian style Colocasia, it's a very tender type, and it's grown the best it's ever grown this year, and there's several definite separate plants here, so I'm going to take this opportunity now I've lifted the plant to separate them, and they should just tease apart. So if I just pull it, I've got one there, another one, so here we are. It's a small one there, quite small, two better sized ones there. Let's just separate that. There, so we've got several good sized plants that I'm going to put up in individual pots, small as possible, and that is because they want to be able to dry pretty quickly and be really good drainage. The smaller the pot the better. They won't be sat in cold wet compost over winter. And I'll basically pop these in, put the free draining mix around them, and they'll go into the greenhouse. So I've potted up all the individual Colocasias now, and they've got 6 good plants here, actually 7 because there's 2 good plants in this pot here. And although they look fantastic at the moment, over winter with the low light levels, the leaves dwindle away, and if they don't dwindle away quickly, we'll get botrytis anyway, or red spider mite. So what I'm going to do is cut back most of these leaves. Looks a bit drastic, but they'll die off anyway. I don't want botrytis in the greenhouse, so basically we just snip away pretty much all the leaves apart from the central ones. So we just go around here cutting these off. And we'll give them a good water and we'll go straight into the propagator in the greenhouse. So I'll carry on cutting the leaves off. Now this Brugmansia has done fantastically well this year. It's had 3 flushes of flowers, but I need to lift it now and store it for winter. I could leave it till after the first frost, but I'm deciding to do it now. As you can see, there's absolutely tons of buds on here, but unfortunately they're not going to get a chance to bloom because I'm going to cut this back before I lift it and take it into the greenhouse. If I had space, I would leave it this big. If I had a conservatory, it'd go in there, it would bloom, and then it'd probably go dormant over winter. As I don't have the space in a small 8 by 6 foot greenhouse, I'm going to cut this back now. You've just got to be careful with this plant because the sap is very hallucinogenic and you don't want to get it into your eyes. It will dilate your pupils. It can give you sort of crazy dreams. So you don't want to get this into your bloodstream. So I'll cut this back to a much smaller plant. Now that might look a bit drastic, but it's the best thing I can do to keep it under control in the greenhouse because it does grow quick. I don't want loads of foliage over winter. All the leaves pretty much drop anyway with the low light levels, so it's best just to clear all those away. So I've got a big pile of the foliage there I've cut off, and now it's time to dig up the root ball and get it into the greenhouse.
Now that I've cut off most of the new foliage off this Brugmansia, time to dig around it to sever all the roots that are growing out from the plant and underneath. It's grown pretty good root system this year, so I've got to dig nice and deep all the way around it, taking care not to get any sap from the cut ends on my face especially, still wearing the gloves. And then once I've dug all the way around it, I'll be able to pull it up and we can look at potting it up.
And as you can see, it looks quite drastic what I've done to this Brugmansia, cutting off most of the foliage, cut back a lot of the main stems, and I've root pruned the root ball as well, so it's a manageable size. And I'm just going to basically pot it into the smallest pot I can, just shove it in there, backfill with my gritty compost. I will give this some water, and then that will go into the greenhouse just to tick over winter. Don't really want much growth, just want it to keep alive. And what you can do if you don't have a greenhouse for these, or you're limited with space, either more so than I, is this could go in anywhere dark. It can go into a garage, it can go into a loft, as long as it's completely frost free, so above 0, like 5 degrees ideally, or above 5 to 10 degrees. Don't want it too warm because then it will start growing, which you don't want in complete darkness. Then it will survive winter for most types of Brugmansias. Right, off to the greenhouse.
It's going into its final resting position for winter in the corner of the greenhouse, where it'll be kept above 8 degrees in this corner, giving a good watering, and that's it until next spring.
Now you may remember from 2 weeks ago, I took these irisine cuttings and put them in jars of water, and as you can see they're still alive. And if we look down below in the jar, we have lots of new roots, so it's been successful. So I'll give it a few more weeks probably till there's more roots, and then I'll pot these up into individual pots. So we've had a very special delivery this week. It's nothing garden related. We've got a little mini Yorkshire Kris. He's just a few days old, so I've my hands full in the garden and at home. Join me next week for another edition of Yorkshire Kris Weekly. We'll be doing more in the garden. Join me then.